Okay. Good morning, everybody. Happy All Souls Day. The court will please come to order. There's a quorum present. All the court members are present. All legal notices have been duly posted and the court is duly called. Is there a motion to close the October term?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion carries unanimously? Is there a motion to open the November term?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Bailiff will please open court.
All rise. The Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the November 2021 term. The Honorable Clay Lewis Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Well, good morning, and I would like to welcome the Reverend Dr. Daniel Kanter. Is he online? Oh, wonderful. Is the senior minister of the First Unitarian Church of Dallas. He has served the church in Dallas for 20 years. He graduated with a doctoral degree from Parkland School of Theology in 2007 and was a Harvard Divinity School Fellow in 2017. He is the author of the book, Faith for the Unbeliever, and he currently serves on the board of trustees of Reading Partners of North Texas, as well as the chair of the Clergy Advisory Board to Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas. I'd like to welcome Dr. Kanter.
Thanks so much. Sorry I couldn't be with you, but I'm glad to lead you this morning in worship or prayer. Let us join in a moment of prayer and meditation. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, as we wrestle as a country to remember our motto, out of many one. Let those committed to stitching the fabric of our country together lead with integrity and resolve. It happens one community at a time. We approach this election day praying for polling staff and stations, that democracy will withstand any and all attack, that our votes will count and our voices will be heard. We pray today, especially for this council, that their hearts be tuned to our needs, that they continue to lead with compassion for us all, and especially for those who reside at the edges of our communities because of systems that push them there or poverty that hold them there. We pray today, hearts be strong for staff and all who help make Dallas County thrive. May they be blessed this morning and in the days to come. Bless today this council, this meeting, and this day. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And thank you.
Be seated. I've got the first resolution this morning, and James Henderson is here from Dallas County Veterans Department. Are there any other veterans in the audience? Please stand for this resolution as we honor Veterans Day. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas it has long been accustomed to commemorate November the 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle, and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace. And whereas in November of 1919, by U.S. presidential proclamation, the 11th of November was first commemorated as Armistice Day, with the following words: to us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and
Mr.
with
White,
gratitude
I have
for
the
the
same
victory of World War I. And whereas on May 13th, 1938, Congress made the 11th of November a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace, and to thereafter be celebrated and known as Armistice Day, which was later amended to strike out the word armistice and inserted in the place of the word veterans. And whereas November 11th, 2021, Americans will commemorate the 102nd anniversary of this proclamation and honor those veterans who have taken the solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And whereas in the acknowledgement of sacrifices and contributions to the American society made by U.S. military service members, the official theme for Veterans Day 2021 is centered on the centennial commemoration of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, honoring its past and recognizing its continued importance in American society to all. And whereas we respectfully acknowledge and honor all who have served for their bravery, sacrifice, and love of their country, thanking them for risking their lives to defend America, reflecting on the importance of peace, and on the value of harmony in our daily interactions. And whereas, let us always remember our wounded, our missing, our fallen, and their families this Veterans Day and every day, celebrating their immeasurable contributions, drawing inspiration from their example, and renew our commitment to showing them the fullest support of a grateful nation. And whereas in paying tribute to our veterans, we remain mindful that no ceremony or parade can fully repay their sacrifices. Dallas County residents pledge to remember that our obligations endure long after the battle ends. We honor, respect, and render allegiance to our service members, which they have so rightly earned and deserve. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize the outstanding contributions, service, and sacrifices of all those brave men and women who have served in America's armed forces, and urges all who live and work in Dallas County to show their appreciation for and to all veterans of our community, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our next resolution is from, I beg your pardon.
No problem, Judge. Good morning. First of all, good morning to the court. Judge, it's always a pleasure to have you to sponsor the Veterans Day resolution. It is unfortunate that the main highlight of the Veterans Day celebration has been canceled for the second consecutive year. However, all is not lost. It's given most of the people of Dallas County the opportunity to really reflect on the meaning of Veterans Day and also to think about other things as far as how to celebrate this day. Most Americans profess to truly love our veterans, especially in gatherings like parades and other venues recognizing Veterans Day. And while these feelings are usually sincere, it's important to remember that veterans have defended us 365 days throughout the year. This heroism has been demonstrated from the American Revolution all the way to today's reflection, which is the global war on terrorism. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title veteran. Less than 1% of our population is currently defending us in this global war on terrorism. Let us forever remember, veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on this earth. My final note, veterans don't ask for much, nor do they want to be categorized as special class or categorized in a special class. But earned federal and state benefits are a mere drop in the bucket compared to the financial cost and human casualties of war. And while not all veterans see war, all have served and will give if called upon. Warriors need advocates, and this is why your Dallas County Veterans Services Office exists. Often, the Veteran Service Officer is that last bit of hope when veterans are seeking benefits from the Department of Veteran Affairs. Our debts to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must last forever. God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless all y'all. Commissioner Garcia has our next resolution.
Yes, Judge, thank you so much. This resolution has been moved to the 16th. The person that we are honoring in this resolution, Paige, could not do it today. She will be here on the 16th. I just want to say that She is being nominated as a Texas Trailblazer, and we're very honored for her 30 years of dedicated service to the Dallas community when it comes to being a passionate voice for people living with family violence. So the family place is a special place for all of us. I look forward to reading this resolution on the 16th. Thank you, Judge.
All right.
And for those people that want to join the award on November the 17th, you can buy your tickets now.
Great. And quick moment of reminder, today is Election Day. You can go to dallascountyvotes.org to find the polling place nearest you. There are 8 constitutional amendments on the ballot. It's an important election, even though there are no candidates seeking office, these constitutional.
No, that's not true.
There are.
Depending on where you reside, in Mesquite.
Oh, that's right, there's like school boards and things.
Well, and there's a city council election and mayoral election in Mesquite. And so,
Please make your voice heard, dallascountyvotes.org to find a polling place near you. We're going to have a public hearing on redistricting at 10:30, but I'm going to try to get us through as much as I can before then.
Another point of personal privilege,
Sure.
if anyone's listening and perhaps can take some time today, and today only, down at the main library, is one of the 11 original copies of the Constitution. It's up on the, I guess, 5th floor. It'll be there from 10 a.m. It'll open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So one of the 11 original, very rare document indeed, is here in Dallas at the library.
Cool. I did not know that. I may have to get over there if we get this done in time. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move right to our presentations.
Judge, we probably, first of all, let me do a motion to suspend the agenda.
So moved.
Well, for what purpose?
For purposes of the way, because you don't really want to get into the presentations right now. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I am the first one on the list. I'm doing a motion to suspend the agenda, and so we can kind of navigate it.
So moved.
What would you like to take out of order, because presentations is next?
I got that, Judge. Just suspend the agenda, and then we'll.
Well,
I move a motion to suspend the agenda.
Second.
all right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Okay.
opposed?
Okay, and the reason, saying, Judge, go ahead on and go to Dallas County Health and Human Services, because when I do the record bill, unless it's already up on the screen, is records already up on the screen? It's not. So what's up on the screen? I'm just trying to move it fast. What's on the screen? I'll do records.
I can see what's on the screen.
I can't either, I'm just
Yeah,
trying.
it's on the screen. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll do records as opposed to Parkland. That's, I moved it. Mr. Bazan, move forward.
Yes, sir, and this is a response to the inquiry question about budget, schedule, and issues that.
Pull that mic a little better, Mr. Bazan. Okay, let's try it again.
So this is a response to the inquiry, Commissioner, regarding budget, schedule, and any issues that are out there, and you wanted to be made known of those and wanted the court to make.
Right. Let me just explain to the court. While I have some direct concerns with regards to records, I also have some concern with some other construction projects that you're going to hear about. I know the DA, the civil DA chief, has been in the email thread, but this one is, even though, and by the way, Judge, just personal privilege real quick, I see Ms. Drake is in the courtroom. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Drake. Ms. Drake, you want to stand up? I know most people. Ms. Drake has been responsible for not only the moving into this particular building, but moving us out of Wren Tower, out of Jackson, out of several buildings, and it has been a huge undertaking. And she's almost done it seamlessly. And so I just want to say thank you to her and her energy and her efforts as we're still having issues with regards to supply chain with regards to this building. COVID impacted a number of things, but some of the concerns I have, we'll get around. So, Ms. Drake, thank you very much for all your energy and effort and all of those real mince words that you've had to deal with people who weren't ready to move but had to move. So thank you. Okay, so now, Mr. Bazan.
Yes, sir. So getting into the budget and just, I guess, capturing the history related to the project. Well, first, this is the restoration and renovation of 3 dilapidated historic buildings. Commissioners Court had hesitation from the beginning about this project. You utilized a citizen committee to review the subject for over a year, come up with recommendations that these buildings and their history deserve investment from the Commissioners Court. So that's how we got to this very, very expensive project.
But I also want to put on the record, this court, and we made great pains to ensure that we had a, quote, historical architect to deal with these 3 buildings, okay? And while we're going to probably, hear some unforeseen, we had a historical architect, not just any old architect, to deal with this building. And so, again, I'm going to have some other concerns, but continue.
Yes, sir. So you see the progression of the budget on the left-hand column. You have the initial GMP amount, and then you had items that were included later for pricing that weren't ready at the time. You had pre-construction costs, and then you had an owner's allowance that for the majority of the project was held outside too. So that amount on the left-hand side was generally the cost of the project for the majority of the schedule. With all of your facilities, you added CARES modifications. There were significant modifications to records as well, primarily with the HVAC systems too. So you see the costs associated with that there. You also had previous IT administration had brought to you several years ago issues within the parking garage and safety concerns about connectivity there. So you had a communication infrastructure vendors already on site, so it made a lot of sense to utilize them. They were already mobilized, and it made a lot of sense to utilize them. So that was a separate project that was also part of the records budget too. So that's for a digital antenna system within the garage. And then you had an addition to carry that over into the George Allen portion. And that's what those costs are reflected there. And you see the total budget that has been approved by the Commissioners Court, which is $170 million.
Well, there are a few things, and Judge and colleagues, I want you to know that I've had some heartburn about this project from day one, and I've asked Mr. Bazan to provide us all with a full picture. The contractor issues, trust, for me, trust has never been there because of the history in the community. And one of the things we've had to do is kind of manage this project from day to day. We've made a number of site visits with regards to it. I've asked Mr. Bazan and all to pull down contractors. And so we've had a number of issues. And so right now, I'm still looking for what we call this detailed budget presentation. I really want to see all of the numbers. This is not detailed. This is drone, 50,000 foot. These are some numbers, but these are not the detailed presentation. And so I still want to see. I want to see. What we call, we're moving into the building, everybody except the court so far. And we need to see, as you'll see in Court Order 16 today, as we did in the South Dallas Government Center, want to see an end of project audit. Mr. Marr, Mr. Bazan, facilities, the managers, the project managers, the GCs, we've all met around South Dallas government said we had a heck of a punch list, and I want to thank facilities. They did a great follow-up, numerous issues, and some of the tenants are here. Constable Gully and all are here today. We had a myriad of issues, but today we're able to close out on 16 because we were able to sit down and meet and get all of those issues dealt with. But so I want to say an end of a project audit, and I understand one is being prepared that may show every dollar we've spent to Manhattan and where it went. But again, and I see Chong is here today from the DA's office, want to see all subcontractors and minority participation used. We got a new SBE person here, has no clue about what's going on. So I want some other eyes on it other than just our eye. And then a full briefing from the attorney, because we got a number of claims on this building. We haven't even occupied it yet. Well, we haven't as the court. Most, I think you're probably, 75, 80% occupied. I think is it just a court? It's just a court. Yeah, budget. Well, we keeping budget over here with us until yes, because of access. But my point is there are a lot of issues that are looming out there, Mr. Martin. We haven't been able to get our arms around, and so I've asked Mr. Bazan, and I'll say the same thing, Commissioner Khan, especially with another issue that we're having. Mr. Heichel and I met with some people last week, with regards to, and I've gone back and asked for it. It's your building, it's Cantrell, but I want to know, we got some of the same contractors dealing with these projects. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I've asked for all of the dadgum. This, we don't do enough of this. And then when we see these flags raising up, it's like we got all these claims. We don't have an audit, and so we've spent a lot of money, and we got a lot of claims that are looming out there. And again, we're the client. We need to see all the subcontracts. If a GC says, hey, I gave $3 million on an electrical contract, then we need to see that subcontract. Because on some of this auditing, we've seen that we're showing, and we got to get general condition releases, right, y'all? And we get partial. I'm telling y'all, Mr. Bazan.
And Commissioner, if I could go through too, I think I'll cover some of the issues that you're referencing too. But I mean, the county has no direct relationship with subcontractors. We care deeply. We coordinate with our SB office regularly to ensure that there's no small business issues too. But in terms of the contractual relationship, that is directly with the construction manager. And you talked about issues that are out there, and this is what we're trying to do is lay them out. You have approximately what we have projected. We've not received backup information to approximately $5 million in submittals that the construction manager is looking for the county to review. They have not necessarily followed the contractual process for that, but we're going to look at the information with our attorneys and make a recommendation. You have an insurance claim matter that's out there as well, too. It says a design related issue too. We're working through that. And then the construction manager has also made an assertion, we've not seen any dollar amounts, that they intend to file something related to COVID-19. There's no contractual basis for that, but we're just being open that we received that information. Aaron, can you get the next slide, please? On the schedule, Commissioner, that was the second part of your inquiry. Yeah. It's been a long project. The construction began in March 2018. The initial completion date for the project was October 2020, so that was a year ago. The COVID modifications changed the schedule to April 2021 for final completion. The contractor was not able to complete the project in April 21. You saw occupancy in August 2021. And you acknowledge the great work from Ms. Drake, and it's just an incredible job to move everybody and then decommission the other facilities. The projected final completion for the last remaining parts under construction is the courtroom, which is right now, the current schedule that they've given is January 2022. So that, from a schedule perspective, that's what's out there in terms of what we're monitoring. And a lot of these issues have really been made known to the county just in the past several weeks or months, too, is the schedule piece. They give you a schedule, Commissioner, and you expect them to follow and meet that. Right now, to facilitate one of the second change order for the DAS system, we adjusted the completion date to October 1st. Too, they still have not kept up. They're obviously still under construction and have given a January 2022 date. We have not given any indication that we accept that date at this time. You talked about a final audit. Actually, we've actually engaged outside counsel. Commissioner's Court approved, I think, 2 meetings ago for a review. So you have that review going right now to ensure that every expenditure is within the at-risk contract. So you have your attorneys coordinating, and they're going to come to Commissioner's Court probably the first week in December with just a full review and a final audit. So they're actually helping and coordinating that final audit of expenditures, and you'll get all that information that I know that you're looking to get. You brought up the subcontractor claims. We actually have received very little information on that subject. We got a communication yesterday on that. Typically, they're going to go through a process, the subs, if they're claiming issues related to schedule delays or whatnot, through Manhattan's performance bond and surety process too. So that's not with the county. We've received information from Manhattan. They intend not to necessarily go through that process and would like to pass over those claims to the county. I can tell you, your attorneys have a lot of, will have a lot to talk to you about. We just received some information yesterday, but you'll get a full briefing on this probably the first week of December with an audit. But the small businesses, obviously, making sure that they're taken care of is top priority. Coordinating, I had a conversation with Mr. Crawford just to make sure that he's not received any information. We've only, in the past several months, we've only received directly one issue, and it goes back to the general conditions, which is overhead and supervision costs for a contractor. So all the contractors from the county end, whenever we receive a draw, it's timely paid. And obviously those subs get costs of work 5 to 8%. So what's in dispute there with Manhattan is the general conditions piece, which is something that they negotiate with the subs. So your attorneys will have a lot to say on that subject. And then you brought up department needs. You have departments that are in there right now. We're, Mr. Gray's coordinating any small needs, whether it be, signage or lighting or whatnot. So we'll come back at a later time to get some of those lists that might be a future cost, because we certainly want to close out this contract with this current vendor and move forward. So, Commissioner, I think just based on our conversation, that answers quite a few of your questions that you had too, but we'll have a detailed briefing with your attorneys probably the first week of December.
Mr. Bassan, could I ask one question on the prior slide? It's the owner's performance, owner's allowance, reconciliation. What is that?
You kept the owner. Typically, you have an allowance, owner's contingency. We did not keep that within the contractor's budget. We did not want them to believe that that was theirs to utilize. So, and I think that's been the county practice to hold that outside, and then at some point, Commissioner's Court moves that money into the project.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
It's contingency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Cost
contingency.
contingency,
Yeah.
money contingency. Well, are you done, Commissioner Pratt?
Well, I'll yield.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Bassan, Mr. Martin, the facilities, Mr. Gray, and obviously Mr. Crawford, Mr. Cho as well. I think that from the very beginning, we knew we have a very challenging process: consolidation, unification, and more importantly, renovation. We all knew more about 11 years ago, if you wanted to start a fight in Dallas County, you just ask for 1 inch more of a space, okay? And we will have a war. So we knew as we went through this process with the planning committee, every single step of the way has been transparent, not only with this horseshoe, but at the facility committee meetings that we have been having for more than 7 years now, Mr. Martin. So I do know that moving, and the facilities planning committee was very clear about this. This was going to be a big challenge. Moving more than 900 people in and out, rebuild an historic facility built in 3 different historical periods in Dallas County was not going to be easy. I pray for 1.5 years every single day that that brace that had 3 buildings, shells held together, will not fail. It will not fail because it will be disastrous not only for Dallas County, but for downtown, for lives and employees. Through every single step of this project, we have what I consider some of the best. And I think that's what we can disagree, Commissioner Price.
We disagree.
Of the best people, expertise that came from the historical preservation. We've been in front of the Texas Historical Commission, the City Historical Commission, and through every single step, the staff has done a fabulous job continuing this project.
We disagree.
We disagree, Commissioner, but I was in some of them, and I have to tell you, sometimes they're not easy processes.
Okay.
They change several issues. That is being perfect? No. That we didn't have challenges in North Dallas Cantrell Government Center, in South Dallas Government Center, in Records Building or Oak Cliff will be an understatement. But we do have the people in Dallas County, in the facilities department, and all the people that I just mentioned that know that our employees deserve better after more than 50 years of neglect in all these buildings. The consolidation has been the best thing that has happened to Dallas County because from $100 million of deferred maintenance that we have in this county, we have now less than $20 million. And no county in the state of Texas, of the 254 counties, has been able to do that. And I thank you, my colleagues, as well as the leadership of Dallas County, to be able to get to this point. That we still have growing pains, you bet. That we have, some areas that are not going to be ready on time, you bet. We didn't expect this pandemic to affect so much of the design that we have already planned. The protections, the social distancing, the lack of employees, for the construction companies that we have hired. Mistakes are going to happen, by human nature. Now, when we look at the budget, and I agree, this is a, bird eye budget, we need to look at the details of every project. I'm ready to do that, Commissioner Price, for all of us, because that's our job as commissioners, to be sure the money is there and counted, every single penny, because it's taxpayers' money, and our job is to be sure that they are spent wisely. The reality is we're still in the middle of the process. I was yesterday at the Oak Cliff Government Center and Records Building, and I have a list. I see Mr. Wilson here. He has some issues with the elevator that he really needs to, with handicap access. With our treasurer, some areas have to be changed to be sure they're secured correctly, because that's the way the state law requires them. Yes, we need to do that. We still have some issues with moving some furniture without nicks and, details in walls. Oh, you bet. The fact that the Commissioner's Court room is still not ready and probably will not be ready till another 2-3 months, right, Mr. Bazan? January of next year, and that's optimistically. With that being said, yes, growing pains are still there. I want to thank all the elected officials and all the administrators that yesterday were kind enough to send me their punching lists. I know our staff is working 24/7, from IT, which they've been, bless their hearts, everywhere. I saw them everywhere yesterday. Thank you, Ms. Kraft. That is perfect? No. That we're running in the right direction? Hey, we're going to make it happen because that's what Dallas County is all about.
I appreciate you hijacking it. Let me just tell you.
It's not
you
hijacking.
are. Let me just tell you. We hired a historical architect. They could have told us from the word go, you know what? We can't put these 3 buildings together. They told us they could. You're right. I've been right there in your facilities meetings. I've been right there. Appreciate all that background. That has nothing to do with how they have performed and managed. We all got punch lists. I've walked the building. I've seen the elevators. I've walked every inch of that building. I can tell you the sheriff, that has nothing to do with this presentation today. This presentation today is about the developer, the contractor, and whether or not Dallas County is getting what we deserve to get, number one. And number two, like I said, I've been in enough meetings, Commissioner, with lawyers. When you tell me that, I understand we have no relationship with the subs and all, but when I hear subs that may be having a difficult, not maybe down this project, may be going under, we have paid timely because I have bird dogged those invoices, but maybe subs are not. So subs are complaining. And so all I'm telling you is that there are some issues. And the general conditions, again, we don't have enough information yet. And so now, over the weekend, Mr. Bazan just said, all of a sudden, put this on for presentation, all of a sudden, he's not getting some communication. A day or two before, he getting communication. I asked him for this with all the other building projects at least 3 or 4 months ago, and I've been going through every last one. I don't think, like I said again, the only thing I haven't visited is Cantrell and Oak Cliff. And Oak Cliff is just, you guys not getting that, but I haven't visited Cantrell. But the rest of them, we've been sitting down going through it with the attorney to make sure, that the issues are extinguished, abated, and are fair to all the participants that this court has embraced to be involved. And Mr. Bazan, there's no condemnation on the way you have performed, because you're having to deal with me 7 days a week. Yeah, bless his heart. I got it. He and his family.
So, Commissioner, if I understand correctly, your problem is subcontractors, which we directly cannot approach. And I'm hearing correct that?
No, not just subcontractors.
Okay.
I got a problem with the GC.
Okay.
And you're right. But what they always tell us, we have no relationship.
We shouldn't.
Well, okay. But my problem is that this court has said you will have certain participation. Okay? So, you ain't talking about participation. You're telling the GC participation, and then subs come back and say, you know what? GC is not behaving properly.
Have you heard that, Mr. Bazan? Because I understand that's where the communication is not there, right?
I think from the MWBSB perspective, the commissioners have an objective of 40%. They're achieving that from all the information. We want to see the end of project report. I think, Commissioner Price, you brought up, the main issue is with the construction manager. I would say that that's accurate too. So we're concentrated on working with the construction manager. If they have issues with their subcontractors, we want to see and hear that information too. But it needs to go through a thorough review, through our third-party processes, through our attorneys, and also through that final audit we talked about.
But if they can't outcry, we don't have to get involved in the minutia. If they can't outcry to us and says, hey, there's issue, then all I do is hand it off to you and say, vet it.
And Commissioners Court has, I think, responsibly approached this by hiring subject matter expert attorneys to review the information along with auditors too. So we'll follow up with you on that information the first week of December.
Yes, Mr.
That's
Bazan,
something
just
that
to
we have
make
been
it
watching
clear, can you just please be,
throughout
I'm
the
sorry.
period of this.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I started talking first. But we've looked at this, because I know I asked you questions about subs being paid, the timing of it and things like that.
We've received one issue directly from subs, in my recollection, from the entire project. And that was related to, as I said, general conditions. So it's overhead and supervision costs. So those subs were paid for their work, and they received an appropriate fee. The larger companies, much larger subs are going to ask for overhead and general conditions, and they negotiate that directly with the construction manager, too. So there's typically a process that they use to complain or try to recoup those costs. Here, the construction manager, their fiduciary responsibilities are to the county. It's an at-risk contract. There are certain responsibilities that are expected of them. Here, as we understand, based off communications just as recently as yesterday, is that they do not intend to go through those processes, and they would like to just pass those costs through to the county.
See, that's my problem. Those claims, you can just pass them through to us, penalties and all. See, and again, I know that's what the audit, and you guys are going to be able, to ensure that, that's not the case. Because what bothers me, at the end of the day, GC says, with their claim, we'll just pass them through to the county.
So that's why we
Yeah,
need
but
to
based
do
on
it.
their contract, they can't do that. I think, Jonathan, you mentioned it earlier, at-risk contract. What does that mean?
I know what it means.
I know you do, but I think we need to explain it. We have people here who are listening. What does that mean, Jonathan, in terms of a contract?
The contractor cannot exceed the costs approved by Commissioners Court unless they give detailed information beforehand, too. So that's why we take issue with some of these.
Which they agreed to in the
submittals.
initial contract. This is the contract that they agreed to.
It's
So we went through that competitive process back in 2018, 2017. They were chosen as best and final offer and agreed to this at-risk contract. So this is what we're holding them to, which is why we've got this consultant coming in December and is going to tell you, you guys signed a contract with them at this price. We've had some changes, and we've had some, our owner changes have been paid for, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So they, as far as we've upheld our end of the contract, so we need to hold them accountable.
Correct.
Right.
And at the end of the day, the process is set in such a way, Mr. Martin, Mr. Bazan, for the record, correct me if I'm wrong, that all this is going to be audited, is going to be presented, and checks will be cut when the work is performed.
And if there are any sub-issues and that we find out about them, we would even consider a joint checking process to ensure that the subs get paid too. But that's going to come out with your final review, and you'll get a full review and briefing from your attorneys first week of December.
Okay.
Yes, and we will follow all the ethical processes that we need to follow.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Especially contact with some contractors.
Especially what?
Contracts with people that, staff should have the contract with, not us.
Well, and that's basically the genesis of the presentation.
Correct.
Okay.
So we need to
Okay.
be careful
Okay.
with who we talk to ethically. So with that being said,
I've
thank you,
been
Mr.
talking,
Bazan.
that's the reason that any back and forth has been with the attorneys on the E-thread.
Good. So far, facilities. And Mr. Bazan, would you please be sure that in our next facility committee meeting, all these, anything that has, perspired from this conversation is included?
We will include information on the current claim numbers that we discussed earlier in the presentation. Regarding the attorney advice, that'll of course be to Commissioners Court directly.
Thank you so much. In the meantime, thank you to all the staff. I know I've been seeing you everywhere. I just want to thank you and let you know that all your work is appreciated, and that we will continue to move to, finish this big project, the biggest, probably historical project, not only in the city of Dallas, but in the state of Texas. Thank you.
Could you share this PowerPoint with the rest of us, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bazan.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia and Mr. Bazan, everyone who's working on this day to day. All right, you got the next presentation if you choose to do it.
I'm going to defer it until later.
Dr.
Well,
Wong?
let's go.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Dr. Wong, you're up next.
Good morning. Go ahead and get started. Great, thanks. So since we last met, we have moved the risk level, transmission level down to orange, indicating the improvement in the all the indicators that you'll see in just a few minutes. But the caution going along with that, again, is that we've been there before. It doesn't mean that you go back totally to normal before COVID and we can just do everything. That we still need to keep our guard up, still do some of the things to slow down the spread. We still, as you'll see, there's still 1.3 million people who are not fully protected from vaccination yet in our community. So these are good news. They're good improvements we're seeing in the numbers, but it doesn't mean we go back to normal, and so we still need to be cautious. Again, these are the ICU bed availability. If it's not COVID now, there are other, some of the other conditions that normally typically occupy our hospital beds and ICU beds that are now sort of filling that void. So it's not like we have a bunch of empty ICU beds now. This is that trend.
Dr. Wong, as a kind of corollary to that, I mean, I've seen a bunch of ink spilled on the fact that a lot of delayed care is now resulting in, people showing up acutely. Is there anything that we can do to help in that regard? Because that just seems as though that's a, necessary result of this, right? That people were going to hold off care because of the fear of being exposed, right?
Sure.
You go to a hospital, guess who's going to be there? People with COVID,
Right. Well,
particularly in the ER.
I mean, one of the things that we certainly can do, and we are encouraging everyone to do, is get the flu shot, because we don't want to have that additionally on top of what we're seeing with everything else. That's something that we can control and try to prevent. And I'll show you some of the initial flu numbers we have so far. But again, that's something very concrete and proactive that we encourage everyone to do to try to keep that burden down as much as we can.
So are there any trends, like buckets of particular concern regarding delayed care? There's breast cancer screenings that have been put off, and that would kind of go along with some of our mission regarding, the clinics out there. Hey, let's make sure that we're getting people in, because there may be, we've seen lower use over the last 2 years. We need to really start screening a lot of folks. Is there anything we can be doing in, those types of outreach?
Absolutely. Certainly all of the other preventive measures and, healthy behaviors and screenings and things that we normally recommend, should we need to get back to normal, that we can with those, and certainly not delay those things. Yes, I think it's been observed that perhaps we're seeing the impact from some of those delays during COVID. But again, that's where the ripple effect of what we've been dealing with COVID for so many issues, just does impact everything. This is the suspected and confirmed emergency department visits in the prior 24 hours. And again, that trend going down is continuing, although you can see sort of a slowing in this slope of that decline. So, some indications it's starting to plateau a little bit. Same with the admissions in the last 24 hours. That we're still seeing declines in that, and those are all good things. However, we're still not to the level of where we were back at our lowest points back in June. But every bit that we can keep it going and getting those numbers down as low as they can will help prepare us and buffer us for if we do get any resurgence as we get into the winter. That's what we've been worried about, where we just got through Halloween, and then we get into Thanksgiving and Christmas, which are other opportunities where there could be more spread. And so everything that we can do to get the numbers down as low as they can, in case there are some bump ups that we see, will be helpful for that, preparing for us.
I think I said something to you the last time, and I spent some time this weekend at Ellis Davis. I don't know if you've gotten the memo yet, but these large footprints, we're not going to be able to continue to maintain them from a security standpoint, number one, and just a cost standpoint, number two. And so I think they put you on the radar. we're having difficulty with security around, especially getting into these holidays. And so I think Parkland should be talking to you about Ellis Davis and by end of November, shutting it down. We're going to start doing these pop-ups.
Sure.
And I know my staff, my chief, and others, and I've seen your people, we're just going to have to be strategic about pop-ups and come up with that kind of plan. We can no longer support a 24-hour security with regards to these, and hopefully by November, I've asked this week that they send you a plan, and Parkland, we're closing that down.
Sure. And I think I sent both our flu plan, or just the planning documents, and the COVID vaccination last night.
Oh,
Also.
last night?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it. Okay.
But you know, absolutely, you know, and there's still unknowns that we're having to deal with now with the imminent approval of the 5 to 11 population as it opens up more and more with the recommendations for the booster doses.
Right.
So
But they're
it's
not
been
going to
these-
do not going to do pediatrics at Ellis Davis. They're not going to do pediatrics.
Right.
Again, I'm back to the pop-ups.
Right, and like we're trying to do a limited, reopen some presence at Fair Park again, like once a week, as it was sort of had some regular, you know.
But can you make the number, I guess that's what I'm asking you, Dr. Wong, not, again, Fair Park versus Ellis Davis. Can you make the numbers work, though?
Yeah, and that's what we've been having discussions with the contractor about scaling down the expectations for those to have a smaller presence, but still to have a regular presence, because we would typically get close to 500 at least every time we were operating once a week at Fair Park. And again, there's unknowns now with the boosters becoming more available for other populations in the 5 to 11, and we would offer the 5 to 11 at Fair Park. And we currently have Eastfield already open that we're, you know.
Well, they're doing two at Ellis Davis. It's not sustainable.
Sure.
Okay.
Dr. Huang?
Yes.
We're in a different stage in the pandemic. Are like testings being offered also at the locations that either, whether it's a pop-up or the Fair Park or Ellis Fieldhouse?
Yeah, testing has been offered at Ellis Davis throughout, and, you know, last I talked to them that the numbers on testing, again, have gone down, and that's what we've seen. You know, when these numbers go down, testing goes down. It reflects fewer people with symptoms going to get tested. So, you know, there were some even federal resources that were being offered for testing, but given where the numbers are now, those were then decided there isn't a need for additional testing.
Yeah, and Commissioner, the numbers are basically the same. That's what I'm saying. When I was at 200, that's cumulative.
Oh, no, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just wondering, there are other questions that constituents are asking me, and one of them is, I think I've been exposed. Where do I go get tested? What are the easier ways to do that? And, you know, just having, because there's a variety of things. There's the initial shots, there's the booster shots, there's now the children's aspect, and just being more aware of where are we overall in addressing
Yeah,
COVID-19.
I mean, that's where, you know, it's something new every day, and it changes the situation. Again, we anticipate the final approval for the 5 to 11 imminently. It's been estimated, you know, about 33% of parents are ready to get that for their kids immediately, but then the others are more still hesitant. We don't know exactly how the demand is, but what is different than when we were, you know, earlier in the spring is that there are a lot more providers. The pharmacies and the grocery stores have said they will serve those 5 to 11, even though sometimes they've been hesitant to provide shots to younger kids. They're indicating to us that they will also serve that population, but we're trying to have then those contingency capabilities, offer them if there's no demand, you know, would certainly back off on that. But as we've seen, the situation keeps changing, and they're, you know, continuing to open up the booster dose recommendations to other groups also.
And I assume that you're working with the ISDs in the county as we approach the immunization of the kids.
So again, these are the confirmed inpatient hospital occupancy, and you can see that decline is continuing to go down. The deaths, we're seeing, and that's the trailing indicator, which is again reflecting these other numbers that have decreased over the last several weeks, and we're seeing that reflected also in the mortality, which is very good. Again, draw your attention to our website. We do have the up-to-date dashboard with our cases, and you can drill down by the different demographic groups, municipalities, as well as mortality. The state numbers for vaccination, when you look at the currently eligible 12 plus, we're now at about 74% have received at least one dose. Now, statewide, about 33.5 million doses have been administered in the state. In Dallas County, we've administered over 3 million doses. Unfortunately, that trend in the number of first doses per week is still now around 9,000 per week. So those are not, despite all these different things that are coming out, we're hoping that the 5 to 11 approval will cause a bump up in that new first dose vaccination numbers. More breakdown on the demographics, but again, if you look at the number of people who are fully vaccinated in Dallas County, about 1.39 million. So when you think about the total population for Dallas County, that's still another 1.3 million who are not fully vaccinated. So that's why we cannot just say, go back to normal, we're all protected, or anything at all. So we still have a lot of work to do. This is just our vaccination summary work, some of the dashboard with PCCI. Again, when we look at the total population as the denominator, including those 0 to 12, we're at about 61% that have received at least one dose. And you can see, again, some of the demographic breakdown that we have on that. Just some of the numbers, again, we did over 505,000 at Fair Park, and about almost 1,600 during the state fair. We do have the dashboard, again, on our website with the percentage of hospitalizations among the fully vaccinated versus not fully vaccinated, and it remains, this is preventable. Almost all of the hospitalizations, 85 to 90% are among unvaccinated, and you look at the number of deaths, almost all of those are also among the unvaccinated. I did have just our first numbers on flu that we have for this season. These are from surveillance from the hospitals and hospital labs. So you can see still, as of the week ending October 23rd, a very small number of positive flu tests, less than 1% of the PCR tests, about 2.7% of the rapid tests. And so at this point, we continue to monitor that. The flu activity is not widespread at this point, certainly. And these are the number of hospitalizations for flu and deaths. And again, numbers, fortunately, remain low at this point. But that's why the message to get your flu shot to prevent these is very important, to keep these numbers. And keep wearing the masks. That's part of what was the slowed down the spread last season. So that's why it's a good thing, wear the masks, and it can prevent both this too.
Dr. Wong, the utilization of the gift cards, I'm not able, I'm watching some track back and forth again on these emails. There seem to be some concerns with regards to the utilization. Is there a consistent policy on how we're going to use those, especially those of us doing pop-ups with the gift cards?
Say that again.
There seem to be some issues going back and forth. You've been on some of the email threads. I am on them. We're having issues and having to make policy decisions on the fly with regards to their utilization. Do you have a straight line policy with utilization with regards to those cards?
What do you mean utilization exactly?
In terms of disbursement.
Oh, for like incentives or?
Yes.
Oh, incentives. I mean, it's, you know, for COVID, we're offering them for people, anyone who gets their COVID vaccine, including the boosters. You know, early on, we were, when we had limited and we didn't know how the response was, we started out with just the first doses. But now we're also doing for boosters, offering the
Well,
incentives.
check email in the last week or so, you know, I've been on some email, there have been some issues in regard, at least in the southern sector, so need you to check them.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, sure.
okay.
You know, again, we want to use incentives any way we can to get vaccination. I think we have limited it to Dallas County residents, so, you know, that was one thing. But, yeah, I think we are promoting also booster shots also and providing incentives for that,
Exactly.
too.
Okay,
But, yeah.
yeah.
But still, you know, I mean, the ones we really want to get vaccinated, if they haven't gotten the first shot at all, those are the ones, absolutely, we really want to encourage people to get the vaccine. And just the last slides are, you know, some more.
Returning to the influenza, where are we this year as compared to past years as far as positive for flu?
You know, it varies from season to season, and last year was just the whole season we weathered without hardly any flu activity. So, you know, right now it's low. I mean, it could be, you know, some seasons we've gotten 2 peaks and things like that.
That's why I asked, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's low, and that's good, and we hope it'll stay there.
Okay.
And you know, but it does vary season to season. So,
Thank you.
and again, these are just the remaining some of the vaccination clinics for COVID that we have. We're trying to offer, you know, flu at as many of them as we can. We're still getting more staffing to be able to offer that, because there are more logistics with some of the things as again, as in anticipation of the pediatric doses that are going to use different vials, things like that. But we are actively trying to get more staff so we can offer flu also with these. We haven't accomplished that yet at everything, but we're trying to get more staff. Okay, thank you.
And the only thing.
Very much.
Only thing that I would add to that today is that yesterday we reached 2 grim milestones in Texas. One, in Dallas County, we recorded our 5,000th death from COVID. And in the state of Texas, they recorded their 70,000th death from COVID. And so I would just encourage people, 98% of the deaths at Parkland are people who are unvaccinated. When we think about vaccinated people who have a breakthrough case, they're a lot like Cole and Powell, people who are fighting an underlying illness that make the vaccine that goes into their bodies less effective for them. I talked to a lady in South Dallas who was going through a breakthrough case a couple of days ago, and she has an underlying immunocompromised situation. It's possible to be healthy and have a breakthrough case, but you know, to use an analogy, if none of us can swim against COVID, none of us know how to defeat COVID without the vaccine. So it's not necessarily true that when a non-swimmer wears a life vest, they won't drown. But if you want to drown, don't wear a life vest and get in the river. And that's basically what folks are doing at this point if they don't get that vaccine.
And we're starting to see more education about it, Judge. I mean, I believe that in the last 2 weeks, I have seen more stories in the media. I have seen incredible media, let me put that out, about, you know, the dangers of not being vaccinated and the dangers and of, you know, the risk that you run with your family and your kids as we move forward. So thank you, Dr. Huang. Thank you to your staff. I know they also been working 24/7, and we appreciate all your work. We still have a battle in front of us, but we're moving forward. Thank you.
If I could, I just wanted to bring up one point from a person much smarter than me. Vaccination is not immunization, and that's been one of the biggest fights that we've had, kind of getting people focused on, that you get the flu vaccine and you can still get flu. But too many folks use their point of reference as, you know, mumps, rubella, the immunizations that they receive that are different type of virus, different type of delivery, it's a different thing. So we can't hold a vaccination to the same standard as an immunization. And, sometimes maybe that might be too difficult in some respects to let people know, but vaccinations are always going to have some breakthroughs. And to hold it to the standard of immunization and say, well, then I'm not going to get vaccinated is silly, right? I mean, your door can get kicked in, right? But you still, lock the door, right? I mean, and that's another analogy to throw people their way. But yeah, it's certainly important that we stop holding the COVID-19 vaccine to the standard of historical immunizations.
Well, I take personal privilege, Judge, just say to my staff, people who are out there walking and knocking the doors, and I just want to say thank you to them, because I've only done that a couple of times. I've shown up at some apartment complexes, but they're doing block walking. So my chief staff has a unit every week that's out there, and that's what I'm talking about, these email coordinations back and forth. They're out there, and I just want to thank them for.
I want to see just the cooperation that Dallas County has had, in particular with PCCI, in identifying the 100 census blocks that have the lowest vaccination rates. Most of them are in apartment complexes, which are difficult to deal with. And so, but that cooperation with managers of apartment complexes, so that they've either allowed HHS folks, and hats off to all the community folks that are out there day in, day out doing this, but then also sending out to all of the residents there, so that even those people who will not answer their door are getting the information. There's going to be a pop-up at your location this coming up Saturday. Come join us. And so those have been relatively successful in getting another 50, another 100 people vaccinated. So it's everybody working together and trying to figure out, and still proud that Dallas County does have a fairly high compliance rate, which is holding, knock on wood and everything else, is holding things at least in check. So that's very much appreciated. And thank you, Dr. Wong, for the leadership and all that you're doing in the guidance on so many parts of where we have to be attentive.
Next up is our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda, pulling sheriff's personnel?
Yes.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, this is consent agenda without sheriff's personnel.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next is sheriff's personnel.
I'll move sheriff's personnel.
Second.
All those in, any comments?
We're moving forward. I had a meeting with Mr. Wilson yesterday, and we're trying some new initiatives. Let's hope that they work. At this point, I will be voting against it.
Well, I like to see that, in fact, today we're voting on recruitment packages and things like that in order to, as they say, fish in different ponds. And so, but at this time, I'll still be abstaining because we're still not quite there yet.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? And I abstain. So that motion carries 2-1 with 2 abstentions. Next up are our bids. Is there a motion on the bids?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up are the RFPs. Is there a motion on the RFPs?
I'll move the RFPs.
All right.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have our court orders. There's court order number N1 through 38, addendums 39 through 53, pulling 35 off the agenda for an undetermined amount of time at the request of staff, pulling 12 off the agenda as it's a duplicate of 11, and pulling
40. I pulled 40.
Okay, and pulling 40
at least for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I sent HHS a memo.
Okay.
40 or 45, Commissioner?
40. I pulled 40.
Okay.
And there's no
We don't-
And I had some questions about 17 and 18 that I never got a response about, Mr.
You want those
Basan.
pulled?
I'm wondering,
And Dr. Garcia, apologies, we didn't get you that information. Staff was compiling a list of all the IDIQ work
Okay,
orders
so
that have
let
been
me pull-
issued. And they sent it to me this morning, but they didn't have the SBE designation, so I asked them to work with, work to
would
get
you
that
mind if I pull
information.
them, Mr. Basan, 17 and 18 for 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay, I'll pull 17 and 18 for 2
Okay,
weeks.
17 and 18, and there's no
Except
arg,
17 and 19. 17 and 19 is what you want for, right?
No, 17 and 18.
I'm sorry. did I-
17
19 is
and
the
18,
appointment.
Commissioner.
I'm sorry, I'm
18.
sorry, I misread it.
Apologies, I mean, we have the same issue over here, sometimes we cannot hear you.
it doesn't look like it to me, but is there any argument from staff that these things we're pulling for 2 weeks are emergent and can't wait 2 weeks? Okay, so let's,
I just have to read in the record for item number 29. I just need to change the funding source on that item. The current funding source reads Major Technology Fund. It needs to read CARES ARP, and that is for court order number 29, wireless at Lucero Jail.
okay.
Okay?
It's just a number correction, right?
It's a funding source
Funding
correction.
source
Yeah,
Funding
change.
but I
source
mean,
correction.
but it's a,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a.
It's an amendment,
76
you're
to
right.
82 or something. It's
Let
just-
me read these again, and then we'll take a motion. So we're voting on court orders N1 through 38, addendums 39 through 53, pulling 17, 18, 40 for 2 weeks at the request of commissioners, pulling 12 as it's a duplicate of
11.
11, pulling 35 at the request of staff, and pulling 52 and 53 for separate votes. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second? to that?
Second.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a no on 8, and I'm gonna be, and I do have a question on 22. And the only question on 22 is, why is it 32 months? I saw the 1,600,000, I saw the 1,700,000 we paying, I saw the 1,600,000 we're supposed to be saving, so why 32 months? If somebody want, I tried to calculate.
Before we get an answer to that, let's do a friendly amendment to pull 8 as well for a separate vote, so Commissioner Price can vote against it. Is that acceptable to the maker? Dr. Daniel, you're the maker?
I'm sorry, so.
Pulling 8 as well, is that acceptable to you? And is that acceptable to the seconder, Dr. Garcia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Great. Okay, go ahead and answer his question, please.
Well, as we've seen with this, having that capability has really been critical for our certainly providing vaccination efforts. What the product, we're expanding that now, that it's also going to be able to do childhood vaccinations as well as our flu vaccinations. So combined with our implementation of the EPIC software, they're going to be able to link that and actually input the data into EPIC as we're implementing our electronic health record. Plus it has the reporting directly to the state health department on IMTRAC, so we don't have to do the manual entry. So it's really building that infrastructure for the longer term because we know we're going to need it. It's also going to, they're working on, and will be able to take advantage of these capabilities of some of the community screenings they're working on for hypertension and diabetes as part of this through that iPad interface. So we really feel that it's a good infrastructure key that we need, and they've been a great partner in building our capacity for that.
I get all of that, and again, you know, I don't know if you put the 1.6 million that I'm gonna save versus the 1.7 we're gonna pay. I get that. I was just, the 32 threw me, and the 32, Mr. Frost, somebody.
I think it was the remainder to get 3 years, and we've already covered some of it, so that's why it's not the full
Okay,
3
that
years.
wasn't explained in the
Yeah.
briefing. Okay, got you.
That's the point of a question of clarification, and that is on the, there you go. The housing, the appointment of the person on the housing, the Dallas Housing Acquisition.
The Dallas Housing
That's a
Acquisition.
new term for DHA?
No. That's the one that I've been on representing the court along with all the other taxing jurisdictions, probably for the last 10 years. We've had a vacancy ever since Joyce Brown left, and I said something to the court probably a couple of months ago. Her interim replacement came in, made a presentation, but we need to fill that position. Dallas County has 2 positions on DHAC, and so she is the interim person who succeeded Joyce Brown, and so now I'm asking the court to go ahead on, and apparently HHS has agreed, appoint her so she'll be on the DHAC board, and because we've been down since pre-COVID, so we've been down for 2 years with just me. So that's what that is. That's the Dallas Housing Acquisition Corporation, where all the taxing jurisdictions are represented, and Dallas County has 2 appointees.
Is there any other position that is in a similar situation?
Not in any boards that I'm a part of. And I said something early on, because I really want to know who succeeded her. She made the presentation to the court. Right. And Mr. Martin will tell you, I went back and said, and DHAC asked me the other day, they said, where's your appointee? And I said, let me get a court order. So
we haven't had to do it for years because Ms. Brown had been on the board for years.
She's been on the board for years, along with me and so.
And Ms. Larison, she had taken over the position.
Ms. Larison taken over, and she's interim. And
Right. And she did a good job.
Yeah, she's done a great job. I just want to get on the board so she can understand.
Mr. Martin, for the future record, would you please remind us? I mean, honestly, this wasn't even in my horizon.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. It wasn't even in ours either until Commissioner brought it to our attention, so we'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And, I think she's done a good job.
Yeah, she's done a great job.
What else? I pulled 17 and 18.
If there are no other comments from the court, we do have 2
Judge.
speakers.
No, one more. On miscellaneous, Mr. Martin, there's $1,000 for food for when commissioners go to meetings. What is that about?
Just like we had a broadband summit that we just had with the 2 commissioners, we brought lunch for the attendees, or actually breakfast. We brought little snacks for the attendees. So we have those kind of functions. We like to encourage people to come, so we provide them a little pastry. So I think it came to $260 or something of that nature. So when we have these kind of events, we just make sure we have coffee and snacks for folks.
And they're not elaborate, they're not extensive, they're just enough that people feel welcomed.
Yeah,
And just enough to be there for the next 3 hours.
Right.
Because it went long, it was very, very good discussion.
It was a good discussion. You had almost 45 people there for that. It was an excellent discussion.
Well attended, and it's appreciated that you pay attention, because that's respect to the people who are attending.
Right.
Dallas County's got to step up.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Keep my comments to myself. I appreciate it that you put it in there. Thank you.
If available, please read the rules of decorum for our public speakers. We have 2 speakers on non-controversial court orders.
All Commissioner Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Dallas County Code, Section 74-71. The visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptors, visitors, and registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in State of Texas Penal Code, Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our first speaker is Miss Amy Martin, who is appointed to a trail board. Miss Amy Martin?
She's appointed.
There she is.
Go ahead, Miss Martin.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Martin, for agreeing to be appointed to the Open Space and Trail Committee. You were a person who has been involved for many, many years, in that very area. So I'm looking forward to what you bring to the table, what you bring to the committee as far as where Dallas County is going with its trails and open spaces. So thank you very much for coming this morning, and would you like to say a couple of words? You're on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, you're muted. Hello, hello.
There we go.
There you go, thank you.
I am very grateful to be admitted to this board. I've been a great fan of Dallas County Open Space for most of my life, from my 20s on. I've hiked in probably 3/4 of the preserves. I think they offer a function in the county to give people dirt trails and real access to nature. And some of these places that Dallas County has very specifically gone and placed in safety by putting it in their network, these are some very unusual ecosystems, like the Thaw Palmetto Marsh and the place where the alligators live and some others that I'm just thrilled to be in a position to help ensure that these stay in good health and that people are able to understand why we keep these spaces wild, and then find out a way to get more trails into them so that they can enjoy them.
Thank you very much
you
for
very
your anticipated service and for all that you have done in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one more speaker on these court orders, and that is Michelle Wigington on court order number 6. Miss Michelle Wigington, Miss Michelle Wigington. Okay.
On temporary screen? Anyway, number,
Wait,
oh, okay,
talk to them.
okay,
Let's vote.
okay, so. She is
They
there.
are trying to unmute me, but this is Michael Wigington. My sister is not able to make it to her comment today, and I'll be
Okay.
commenting later.
Go ahead.
Oh, he was saying he's gonna, his sister Michelle was the one that was gonna comment. She can't be here today, so he was gonna wait for his time to comment on
Yeah.
what he was.
They seem to have misidentified me as my sister and accidentally unmuted.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So you don't wish to speak now, right?
Well, he didn't want to speak
Okay.
now.
All right,
Judge, on number 8, didn't know that was Commissioner Garcia, so you don't need to separate it out. I'll remove it. I got it.
all right.
Don't separate.
So going back to the maker, another friendly amendment to include 8, is that acceptable?
That's
And
just fine.
seconder, is
Thank
that
you.
acceptable?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And just for the record, do you mind reading all that was approved right now, just again?
Sure.
That was-
We just approved all the court orders with the exception of 17, 18, 35, 40, 52, and 53. Next up is court order,
17.
no, so let's see, the next up would be the only two things I have left to vote on today are the 2 redistricting matters, correct?
Right.
And 8. There are
No,
3 separate
no,
things.
No, you just accepted that.
You just accepted that he's not gonna
Put that
separate.
in?
Yeah.
8 was voted on. Okay.
Wait, what happened with 12? Yeah, the double, okay, so that, and then.
You're gonna be doing that every week.
Yeah, it's something
So I
wrong
don't
with the
know.
system that's duplicating at least one item every week, and Ms. Granberry and her team are working on that with iCompass. You have a public hearing certain at 10:30. They're here, so we need to wait 2 minutes before we start that.
Do we need to wait, Judge Roden, or?
Yes, you cannot commence the public hearing until the time set forth in the notice.
5 minutes now.
Okay. We might knock out our public speakers. We only have 3 of them. Is Ms. Dolores Phillips here? Ms. Dolores Phillips? Great.
In the meantime, so far, Ms. Kraft just sent a text saying that 36,360 people have voted today.
Great.
So, phone center and connectivity seem working fine. Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Deputies needed help
Dolores,
logging in,
come on
taking
up.
care. Ms. Phillips.
Dolores Phillips, 567 West Dickey Road, Apartment A, Grand Prairie, Texas, 75051. In 2012, there was a occupational license case, CC 12-04405B, that was a fabricated case because I was speaking of a cover-up in Dallas in 2009. Fast forward 2013, when I met with Corporal Cotner, that meeting was prearranged by Mayor Rollins 2 to 3 weeks prior. The police report states that I used hands and feet as weapons. There was no altercation, there was no misunderstanding, there was no argument, there was nothing. When I asked for them to release the video, let me rewind and play back. It was 2 requests. A police officer said, go back, have them revise that open records request. It's multiple cameras. They didn't release Corporal Cotner being anxious, being angry, because I felt like he was put in a position to unlawfully arrest me because he said he spoke to Mayor Rollins prior to me getting there. I have handouts for you. Can you get these handouts?
No, just put them right there and right there.
You were emailed these. I don't know if you received them. This is Ms. Rio's signature on here. I asked for the video from 10/23/2013 that was 2 days prior to premeditated Green Oaks. It was a Wednesday. I spoke at the open mic meeting. They're saying that I did not speak. On this list, they did not even list the 10/23/2013 meeting. They did not even release the video of the 10/23/2013 meeting, which I specifically requested. I allege that the reason that they did not release the video, Ms. Rios was not going to sign stating that the video was intact. I'm further alleging that all the data that was erased at the city of Dallas is an attempt to erase corruption like never before. Phillips Kingston said in 2016 he wanted an investigation into what happened to Robert Groden. I now know that as you were battling Robert Groden unlawfully, you were doing the same thing to me. You battled him for 20 years. In your open quid pro quo, your retaliatory communism, I am going to speak, and the FBI in the United States Department of Justice should come and turn Dallas inside out. I also wanted to say this. Commissioner Price, when I heard on the news that they were honoring the brother, what's his name? Pastor Haynes. I'm not in dispute of that. So I wanted to pay homage to what was in your honor. I was told that you don't have a street, a school, or anything. That's how trifling Dallas is, that you could sit right there where you are all these umpteen years, and prior to you sitting there, all that you did for the community, and you don't have anything in your honor. And that's how Dallas operates. Honorable Jenkins, I need to share something with you. I used to say that I was raised in Dallas. I was raised in Oak Cliff. I won't be wearing nothing to say Dallas on me.
Dolores,
Dallas
you're
operates
out of
as
time.
corrupt. And I'm going to ask the United States Department of Justice to come turn it inside out. You got me fighting
Dolores,
the police.
help Miss Phillips out of the courtroom, please. All right, it is 10:30 and it's time for our redistricting public hearing.
It's 10:30. It's 10:30.
We'll get to the rest of the public speakers after our public hearing, Mr. Hopkins. We will hear from you. We just
You have
took
public
some public speakers because it wasn't quite 10:30 yet. All right.
All legal notices have been
Yeah,
posted, so I'll have a motion to open the public hearing.
Right.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, do you want to lay out the maps for the public? Whoever wants to do that?
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Jerry Hebert here and Chad Dunn, legal counsel. We had previously met and had 4 county commission maps up, A, B, C, and D. We spoke about those before. Map A, Mr. Engel described to you as a map that takes into account the election returns over the last decade. Map B is a map that puts together city splits from previous and maximizes the unification of those.
Are you
Map-
talking about JPs or
No,
commissioners?
Commissioner Court, I said, sorry. And then map C was a map, and map D, sprung from the same tree, was a map that was requested by Commissioner GARCIA, and Mr. Engel drew that map pursuant to those instructions, and Mr. Koch used that as a base map to make amendments to it. So those are your 4 maps. They've been out there now for a few weeks. You've had, I know, some town hall meetings where you've solicited more public input. I commend you for that. At this point, I think, aside from any other public comments, we're here as a resource.
Okay.
Was there public
Mr.
comment that
Rios.
came in as a result of the town hall meetings? I'm just curious.
What was the public input that came in as a result of the town
So
hall meetings? I
There were
just want to
people
make
who
sure.
responded.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes, and each of the meetings that were held, there were a number of people who came in and spoke and gave comments, and those comments varied,
Right.
but yes, there was quite a bit of public comment.
Thank you.
All right. We have some public speakers that have signed up. I had a question for Mr. Rios. Is Rolando here?
I don't think he could make it today. I haven't seen him. He didn't communicate with Mr. Dunn or myself, but perhaps I could answer the question, or Mr. Dunn?
Sure.
If you-
Let me, I'm trying to see if I'm reading these cases, trying to understand this. Is it true that the Supreme Court has made clear that under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, in order to create a new HCVAP majority, in order to intentionally create an opportunity district for Hispanics, we have to have two, or let me rephrase, isn't it true that the Supreme Court has made clear that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires HCVAP majority in order to intentionally create an opportunity district for Hispanics?
I think the answer to that is yes. It's been true in this circuit for about 2 decades.
Mr. Don, hold on. The judge used words like HCVAP for the record.
Yes.
Historical citizen.
Hispanic CVAP, citizen voting age population.
Right, population, exactly. I just want the record to be clear.
All right, sure. So yes, in the drawing of districts under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the Fifth Circuit decided, I think it's been a couple of decades ago, that in order to establish a district under Section 2, it has to be greater than 50% CVAP, in this case Hispanic CVAP, could be black CVAP or Asian. And recently, there was some question whether or not that was the law nationwide. The Supreme Court hadn't spoken on it, but it has recently in a case called Perez v. Abbott. So it's now clear that that's the national rule.
So we currently have one district that performs for Hispanic candidates. And would you agree that once you get over about 41, 42% in an urban area with Hispanics, that district will perform for Hispanics?
It's a unique analysis depending on the location, but that would be true in my experience in Dallas County.
But that's true. The word is CVAP, not VAP. And I think what you've got in your performance is your HCVAP in that district that has performed over the past 10 years.
Yes. Now, preserving a district that's already performing doesn't have to meet the 50% threshold.
Exactly.
And it can't, this court or government cannot intentionally dismantle a performing district, whether or not it reaches the 50%. But if the question is, does the Voting Rights Act require the drawing of a new district, then it has to be shown that it's 50% CVAP or larger.
Without dismantling Dr. Garcia's district, is it possible to draw a second Hispanic CVAP district?
We had Mr. Angle trial, and no. The answer.
And what? I mean, obviously, there was a map that was drawn.
The what? What did you say?
What did you just say, Mr. Dunn? I mean, we didn't understand.
Oh, we've asked Mr. Angle to try to draw a second Hispanic CVAP district that's greater than 50%, and he's unable to do so. We haven't seen one proposed by anyone else.
Rolando, the map C, let's assume for purposes of this argument that it performs to elect 2 Hispanics, okay? Are either of those district HCVAP districts?
No.
No.
What is the CVAP for Hispanics in the 2 districts in C?
We're looking.
Yeah, we have it precisely, Ms. Mayberry will tell us, but I will tell you that in Commissioner District 4, it's over 40%, just over 40%, and in Commissioner District 1, both under the benchmark and under the proposed map C, it's under 40% CVAP.
If it's under 40%, then it wouldn't even be the number that would perform for, I mean, obviously a Hispanic candidate could be elected in a district that is not one that's built high enough for it to necessarily perform for a Hispanic candidate. Colin Allred is African American in one district that is not a.
Under map C revised in District 1, the Hispanic CVAP is a little over 32%, and in District 4, which is Commissioner Garcia's current district, it's about a little over 41%.
What is it under A?
Pardon me?
What's the Hispanic HCVAP under A?
In District 4, it's right at 40. It's a little bit higher under C, and it's a little bit higher under map A. Under the benchmark, it's right at 40. Under the benchmark, it's over 40. Excuse me. Under map A, it's over 40, and in map A, District 1 is again just under 40. So that's my view, is that that the Hispanic opportunity in District 1 is about the same under map A as it is under map C.
Wait, I'm having a hard time with this now. So are we in trouble under map A because we don't have a Hispanic opportunity district?
No.
We're in trouble on all of them.
No, on the map A, you know, Dr. Garcia, you can't get an opportunity district that's not over 40%, because again, I said that in the last presentation, it's about CVAP. It's about CVAP.
Well, and you know, Commissioner, I have to say that I have, you know, severe reservations. First of all, I don't see Mr. Rios here today. Second, you know, in the email that he sent to all of us, he was very clear that map C, you know, represented the Latino community.
Whoa.
You know.
He sent you an email?
Yeah, he sent an email
He
to
did
all
not
of us.
send, I was not, let me say for the record, I did not get an email from Mr. Rios.
Okay.
Did he?
I did not either.
You didn't get one either? No, he did not send me an email.
He sent me one, and I know Mr. Herbert read it because he answered to that email as well. And, you know, he mentioned that it's a long history of discrimination about people of color, Latinos, African Americans, and Asians in Dallas County. He documented legal history of racial discrimination against minorities. Plan C seems to be best to, to represent the significant population growth in Dallas County and best respect the communities of interest consistent with the redistricting principles adopted by this county court. Plan C is also the most politically fair of all the plans and best respects population changes in Dallas County over the last 10 years, including increases and decreases without commissioner precincts in accordance to redistricting principles adopted by this court. Finally, none of these maps violate the standards of Shaw versus Reno. You know, this map has the least deviation as well. Sorry, Commissioner, I cannot hear you, please.
No. So Mr. Rios disagrees, and he's not here today.
And he's not here today.
Well, and is it,
why is Mr. Rios not here?
Why our whole team is not here today?
Has he communicated with you?
No.
Mr. Rios has not communicated with you.
But Mr.
Not
Herbert,
about being
you...
here. Is that what you're asking?
About anything.
He sent me a copy of an email that he sent to Commissioner Garcia.
And that is true and correct in how she characterized it.
I think she read it.
I just read it, Commissioner, right on.
Wait, so wait a second.
Can you get him on the phone? Because I'd like
So
to ask questions.
he disagrees with your assessment.
He does. And he's wrong.
Wait a minute, Mr. Herbert. You know...
Wait.
And I can explain
No,
why.
wait.
Give me just
Go
explain.
ahead, Mr. Herbert, respond.
Okay. So first of all, in creating minority opportunity districts for Latinos, the Supreme Court, and Mr. Rios would agree with this, the Supreme Court has made clear, as Mr. Dunn just said, that in order to intentionally create a new opportunity district for Hispanic or Latino voters, you have to be able to show that you can create a citizen voting age population majority. That's a prerequisite to doing it.
And that's what I said in the last
And
presentation.
it's not in the maps.
Pardon me?
And it's not, that information has not been presented as a whole.
Sure, I did that at the last, the hearing. If you'll remember, that was my only comment.
Right.
Okay, and I made Mr. Ebert elaborate.
But the information
And the reason
is not
for,
on here.
and Commissioner Price, the reason for that, and you're correct, you did bring that up last time, and the reason for that is that if you don't have a CVAP majority Latino district that you can draw as a demonstration map, you don't have what's called a compelling state interest to intentionally use race or ethnicity to create a district. You know this, we've talked about it many times. And so therefore, since you cannot create a majority CVAP district in addition to Dr. Garcia's existing district, you can't create one. There's no Section 2 legal basis that you could justify creating the second district. And I don't think Mr. Rios disagrees with any of that. It's desirable, obviously, if we could, to have another Latino district, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't violate the Constitution. Otherwise, you're putting your whole plan at risk in the courts, and you'll likely lose.
Mr. Herbert, Jerry, you have attacked Map C, calling it unconstitutional because, in your opinion, it's a racial gerrymander that it doesn't meet all the qualifications. However, in virtually the same situation in 2012 against the state of Texas, the state of Texas made the same argument before the Supreme Court challenging Texas Congressional District 33. And at that time, you made the argument that the map was not racially gerrymandered, and the Supreme Court agreed with you and refused to strike down the map. But yet now, you're taking exactly the opposite view.
I am reporting what the Supreme Court's latest decisions reported. The case of Perez v. Abbott that Mr. Dunn mentioned took place after the last census. It was one of the most recent
Exactly.
cases. The law has now been made clear by the Supreme Court on this issue.
But to be clear, Mr. Rios disagrees with your assessment.
He only disagrees, he doesn't disagree with the assessment that the Supreme Court has made clear that in order to intentionally create a Latino district that's effective for Latino voters, you have to first demonstrate that there is a CVAP majority Latino district that could be drawn, because that would be required under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. If you cannot do that, you don't have that legal framework and basis for drawing the district. He would agree with that.
You don't have the requirement, but you still can, for other political reasons, do the same.
You could draw a district based on political reasons from the start. That's correct.
Yeah.
And we really
Do what? In fact, again, if the court will recall, before, no one was talking about CVAP. Everybody was talking about VAP, voting age population, okay? And I brought up the issue of CVAP and then asked Mr. Ebert to elaborate on it, because I understand Section 2. You can't get there without CVAP. You can do VAP. You can do VAP all day long, voting age population. You can't do citizen voting age population. And that is the line by which we deal with under Section 2.
Let me ask a few other questions if I could. Now, you guys may have to look this up, but let's start with map A. In map A, give the court the black citizen age voting population in District 1. Since District 1 is the one that C attempts to make into a Hispanic Opportunity District.
And while you're talking about that, Judge, I did in my map for the county, 2.6 million people. African Americans were 22%, 24% CVAP. Hispanics was 40%, and it was 23% CVAP, countywide. Okay? Now you can begin to drill down the way you want to.
And that's why last time the third got passed.
So under map A, correct, Adriana? Map A, the black citizen voting age population in District 1 is 23.5.
What? Okay.
That's the black CVAP.
3.5. And the Hispanic was 40. Is that right?
The Hispanic CVAP in District 1 is 27.8.
CVAP, Judge, not the...
And it's a combined black Hispanic CVAP of 51.3.
Okay. And what is the Anglo non-Hispanic CVAP?
Anglo CVAP is 42.3 in Precinct 1.
Yeah, we don't have that in
Okay.
front of us.
What's the difference in those numbers under C? So that's A. Let me read that back to you to make sure I got it right. Under A, it's 27.8 Hispanic, 23.5 African American, 42.3 Anglo and non-Hispanic.
27 Hispanic, 23 African American, 43 Anglo.
So
Right.
in District Precinct 1, the black CVAP, 26.3.
And Mr. Rios is trying to connect online. Can we check on him?
And this is all not in our packet, right? The CVAPs are not in our packet, just the
No.
map. Okay, why is that?
It wasn't,
Because I'm just asking for it, I guess, but,
But if that's the legally determinative information, then why isn't it before the court?
Well, but again, I said that, Commissioner, in the last presentation.
well, before we argue though, let me get these numbers, so
okay.
if we
It is,
could.
and it is before the court now. So
Okay,
you're getting it before you vote. The Hispanic CVAP in Precinct 1 is 32.2% Hispanic
I'm sorry, I didn't
CVAP.
hear you. It was 35.
32.
32.2. In the
And how about
Precinct
the
1,
Anglo?
black CVAP is 26.3.
Okay.
Okay? Now, what do you want?
Anglo.
Anglo,
Anglo.
37.1.
That's the C
Well,
under map A.
okay, under that then, based on historical trends, wouldn't C be more likely to, all things being equal, and I realize, people vote for candidates that aren't their race, but giving voting patterns and frequency of voting, would it not be more likely if there were an open seat, putting aside there's an incumbent there, that under C, that would perform for an African American?
It could.
Yeah.
It could, but that's not.
It would be more likely, wouldn't it, to
But that's
perform for an
not, but
African
again,
American?
that's not,
A strong candidate
Well,
could do it.
again,
I get that.
the
But
problem
you know
with
what?
C
Strong can't
is,
do it
is
like
not
that.
with regard to what the performance would be in the district.
I understand, the problem is the legality, but what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because I'm sympathetic to the cause of what she's talking about, because we got a 40% population that's Hispanic.
But not
Well-
CVAP.
But, right.
And CVAP, that same 40%, is 23 countywide. Okay? That's the difference. The only way-
27.8 in District 1.
No, it's countywide. I'm just telling you what my,
Since Rolando is online, can you hear us, Mr. Rios?
Yes, Rolando, can you unmute yourself? According to IT, you just need to unmute yourself. I would like to know first and foremost why you're not here. You were not told to be here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize for not being there. Might have been some miscommunication or something like that, but I normally get a notice from my co-counsel that they're staying at such and such a hotel, and I didn't, unless I missed it, I didn't get it. So I assumed that it was just going to be a vote and no discussion, and I apologize for not being there because I would have been there.
You were not invited.
So,
Well,
Mr.
no,
Rivers.
I don't know that maybe I missed it or something, but normally I get a notice saying, hey, this is where we're gonna stay, thus and such, and then I have my office make arrangements. But, the point I was gonna make in the position I've taken is that in 2010, when we created the Latino Congressional District, it's now known as a Vichy District, to reflect the growth of the community, especially the Latino community, the state of Texas took the position that that was an unconstitutional gerrymander. And that case went all the way to the Supreme Court and came back. But anyway, that plan was ultimately the district that we have now that is held by Congressman Vichy. And that's the only thing I was trying to say is that those are arguments that well, at that time, the state of Texas was making. And that's the only point I was trying to make, that I didn't think Plan C was, as a matter of law, automatically unconstitutional. I think it's a defendable plan, and it's consistent with Shaw versus Reno.
no, that's exactly what they're saying.
So I think maybe we're all saying the same.
Defendable.
Mr.
Mr. Rios, you're saying that map C is defendable under the constitutional rules?
I think it's a viable, I think it's a constitutional plan, yes.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Rios. We've heard from the other lawyers. I want to see if you agree with this. The Supreme Court has made clear that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires a Hispanic citizen voting age population majority in order to intentionally create opportunity districts for Hispanics. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
I think that is the correct reading of the law, yes.
Okay, and so I've asked Mr. Engel, can you draw an additional Hispanic district that is 50% Hispanic citizen voting age population? Can you do that?
No, not without significantly harming the effectiveness of current District 4.
Okay. So Mr. Rios, you've heard him. Do you disagree with Matt Engel?
No, but that's not what we're doing here. We're drawing a district that reflects the population growth. We're not trying to draw a citizen voting age population grid. We're just trying to draw a district that reflects the growth of the community, just like we did with the Vichy district that now elects a minority and is over 50% Latino.
But let me ask you, Mr. Rios, John Wiley Price.
Yes, Commissioner.
Who can vote? I know if you're 18 years of age, you are eligible to be a voter. Who can vote?
U.S. citizens that are over the age of 18.
And CVAP means basically citizen voting age population.
That's correct.
Okay.
But I would hasten to add that we're not drawing a citizen voting age population district. We're drawing a district that reflects the growth in the community. Now, the other thing I would say is that CVAP data is not census data. It is census data, but it's a survey, and it's done. It was done in 2019 between 2016 and 2019, and it's at the block group level, and then they impute. It's not a census data. It's not a census. They impute the population down to the block level.
But
so it's a difference between that and the actual counts down to the block level.
Okay, but that's what all maps are,
Exactly.
have been used to create a CVAP map, right?
Exactly.
Because the data is not in the census
Let me ask this question
data.
for any of you lawyers, and if you disagree, please both jump in. It seems that all lawyers, I think I saw Dunn nodding his head too, that all lawyers agree that the standard of law right now in the Supreme Court is to require a majority Hispanic citizen voting age population district to be drawn in order to draw a new Hispanic Opportunity District. I think all three of you have agreed to that. If we disregard that and do it anyway, okay, who has to, and let's assume my colleague here votes with the, let's assume that the people that may want to sue about it vote for it. Who has standing to sue? Does anybody outside of the 5 people on this court have standing to sue?
Any citizen in the county.
Any citizen, okay. So if the citizen sues, and what is and let's assume that the courts agree with the 3 of you that it has to be a 50% HCVAP district in order to stand. What's the remedy? What happens?
Well, the plan is declared unconstitutional, and it has to be redrawn.
You got to draw it out
Again, which,
Then
could change all 4 districts.
Okay, and then what districts do we run under, do my colleagues run under, if it's declared unconstitutional?
It'll be up to the court. The court will have available to it the opportunity to return it here if it views there being enough time. The court could decide to draw the district on its own, or the court could impose what's often referred to as a status quo map, a map that more or less keeps things the same.
Well, the filing period for re-election and a challenge, I believe, opens on November the 14th and closes in 13th. So, okay, anybody, I think I got them. Go ahead.
Well,
Anybody got any other questions?
I do have to say, I mean, seeing the lawyers that we hire disagreeing, and producing maps that went to public input this way feels like an ambush on Dallas County. And just hearing your questions, Judge, makes me wonder if we will not be better off just staying where we are with the districts that we currently have and represent. You say last time we met, Mr. Herbert, that we could stay where we are right now, right? That the current map that we have right now is well within the deviation required under the law, that it preserves the core constituencies for each district, meets every principle that we as a court adopt for the redistricting cycle,
No.
and we can always revisit it.
No.
in 2 years or in the future. And that's on the record, if I remember correctly.
No, that's not correct.
Yes, did I say that?
Go ahead.
What I said was that the current map is within deviation, but I did not say that the current map reflects all of the other criteria that you've adopted, including election returns over the past decade and growth within the community.
Okay, but you did say that we could keep it, that we didn't have to vote for any maps if we didn't want to.
I did say that it complied, existing map complied with the one person, one vote because the deviation overall was less than 10%.
Correct.
And I stand by that still today.
And rather than to go, because my counsel is on record saying that this map is unconstitutional, you know, I believe that we will be better served if we just stay with the current map. I mean, if we cannot agree, you know, on that, this map, map C, that gives the opportunity to another minority, because it will be African American, Asian, or Hispanic, I would rather stay where we are rather than to pay the money to go to the court and then be struck down.
Well, I made it clear to you earlier today, before Mr. Rios came on the phone, that I felt that as a knowledgeable attorney, he would know that the Supreme Court has required that in order to intentionally create a second Latino district, that a CVAP majority demonstration map showing that had to be drawn. He agreed with that. He doesn't disagree also that you cannot draw such a map. So therefore, as a matter of law, your counsel, the three of us, are united on that point.
It does sound like
Yeah.
Well, I am sorry, but I mean, I have to disagree. I completely feel like the whole process has been tainted. Being open in court of the probability of unconstitutionality makes me cringe. So I will be.
What are you saying?
Well, let me take out the mask,
Please.
That the possibility of this map being unconstitutional makes me cringe. And I feel that the whole process has been tainted.
Why do you say it's been tainted?
You know, Commissioner, we went to public input. You know, we have many speakers speaking in favor of map C. We still have people. No, we still have people today speaking on C, and we have public hearings, people speaking in the Opportunity District. I find this disingenuous, and that is my point, and I will support to leave the current map and then revise it in the future.
Let me ask a few questions about the other maps. So, what is the Hispanic the Hispanic citizen voting age population in District 1 under the current map? Under the benchmark.
So the Hispanic CVAP in Precinct 1 is 28.3 currently, under the benchmark map. The black CVAP is 26.7.
Same. That's what we said all
So that's a 55% black Hispanic CVAP majority. And the Anglo CVAP in Precinct 1 is 39.7.
And that's, well.
And it's an opportunity. That's my point.
But you didn't hear what he said. That's the benchmark now. Hell, it's Opportunity District now.
Correct. Let's leave it as it is.
Well, but no. My point is that, you know, what we've done under the new format is we put all of our cities back together as opposed to splitting them. That's what we've done. We've consolidated and made consistent. But again, the CVAP speaks for itself. We've always known those numbers. And so that does not make it a Hispanic Opportunity District under C. It's an Opportunity District now.
Yeah. Here's a concern, I would like to help Dr. Garcia, but if the choice is between where we are now with split cities or where we could be under A with our cities put back together, and we're allowed to consider how people have voted, and A takes into account that over the last 10 years, this has gone from a county where, for instance, I won my first election by 48.7% of the vote, thank God for libertarians, and now Democrats perform at nearly 70% in countywide elections. So I'm having trouble understanding why I'd want to stay where we are.
Well, under map A, there still are significant city splits. You still split Irving, you still split Mesquite, and you split Garland.
No. Under A, Mesquite, I can't speak to Irving, I don't look, A is together, Mesquite is together, under A.
Not all of it.
No.
Not all of it.
I still have District 1 still has a piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like me saying I got a piece of Garland and I got a
You
road.
got 3 precincts.
I know it, I got a road. How many?
3.
3. Take 33 precincts?
Under map A, here's the significant change under map A and what it's responding to. It's responding to the specific and deliberate city splits that were made in order to intentionally create a strong Republican district.
Exactly.
Garland was split significantly in order to accommodate a strong Republican district. Richardson was split significantly in order to accommodate a strong Republican district. And the part of Irving that is now moved into District 2 was kept out of District 2 in order to make it as Republican as possible. And so what map A does is it puts back those communities of interest in Garland and in Richardson, and then the area of Irving that actually as a consistent community was more consistent with the people to the north rather than in the south, that was put into District 2. And then also the area around White Rock Lake, which was deliberately split in order to accommodate creating a strong Republican district, that was unified. And so map A is really an accommodation of reflecting the political reality of the county over the decade and putting back the communities that were specifically split for the purpose of creating a strong Republican district back in 2011.
Let me ask you this. If we vote on a map today, we vote on a map whatever today, and 5 years from now, if we choose to, the population is such that it is then mathematically possible to draw an HCVAP 50% district, can we do a
Yes.
decade redistricting?
You can redistrict, you can redistrict every year.
Anytime.
Anytime.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, the whole process has been terrible. I mean, no offense to anyone. I just hate to see my lawyers disagreeing at basic principles. I will say, Judge, that we stay with the map that we currently have, and then, in 2 years, we reassess this. Hopefully, a lot of the maps will be fought at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm not leaning towards staying where we are, spending all this money and time and hearing from the public and then not doing anything, but I am amenable to looking at mid-decade redistricting if the numbers change.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on a map whenever.
I would like to say a few things, considering that it's District 1 is under contention here. Because I guess I would like to start too by saying that it's what you do with what you have that also makes a difference. I would like to say that this court, all the members of this court have had a very strong priority in having everything we do look like Dallas County. Therefore, who we hire, who we procure items from, who we do business with, how we do business, the appointments we make are always with a view to demonstrate the shifts in Dallas County's population, and primarily its racial ethnic makeup. And so if you look at the appointments, if you look at my staff, for example, you can see where very intentionally this has been done. The criteria for doing redistricting were also distributed publicly months ago, with paying attention to federal law, to the Supreme Court decisions, to what's going on in the state, to population shifts, to the reuniting of cities, if that was something that was possible. And each of the, I think, 8 items, to me, made a lot of sense of what are things that you have to keep in mind when you look at how we do business when it comes to voting, because it's representation with the intent that the actions, behaviors afterwards would reflect that. That doesn't always happen, but that would be the intent. Therefore, in looking at the 4 maps that have been presented, I would agree that map A attempted to reunite cities, to reflect the changes in voting that have happened over the last 10 years, and thus become closer to one person, one vote, which I think is something that all of us here would defend and support. Map B was the one that really looked at unifying the cities once again, but then it kind of pushed everything else out of shape. Map C then, at the request of Dr. Garcia, was that attempt to make a second Hispanic district in the commissioner lines, which, if the discussion that we've already had this morning would indicate that was not successful in doing that, and in fact, you jeopardize District 4's numbers when you are pushing and pulling on District 1. There is the very strong indication, though, that yes, there have been changes in the population and in how population votes in the last 10 years. And so the point would be, how do we more correctly match up the lines and the people living within those lines so that they can have representation on Commissioner's Court? All of those things being taken into account, even though I most certainly support the fact District 1 currently is like, what, 40% Latino by population. Have they been represented over this time period? I would contend, by their continued voting support, that yes, there has been a relationship there. Therefore, I will be supporting map A because I see that it addresses as many of the criteria that can be, that are listed on reasonable one person, one vote criteria, and then, stepping through that. And then just reuniting some of the areas that had been separated in the redistricting lines of 10 years ago.
Thank you. The points you've made factually in that statement are absolutely 100% correct. Thank you.
Okay, and is there a motion on any map at this point?
Yeah, she just made a motion and says she'd be
Just map
support.
A. I would move map A.
And so she moved map A, I second map A.
And I am just going to say, very disappointed of this process,
Can we pull this and have a special, because I think there's ways to achieve around the edges of map A to do what we're saying we're gonna do. If we're gonna go with map A and we're really gonna keep cities together, then let's really keep cities together.
the problem, if you want to move.
November 13th, November day, ladies and gentlemen, November 13th is our deadline. We don't have time to.
We can call a special meeting before then. Polling
Yeah,
it does not
but the
require.
Commissioner, we've had a meeting, we've had these maps laid out.
So since there's been I think that motion should be, if that's a motion.
It is.
That should be heard before we vote on map A. And so if you're requesting a pull, one of the lawyers, I guess, could answer this question. If we delay this further, do we run the risk of missing our deadline to pass a map where people would run under that map in the next election?
The Secretary of State issued an advisory actually yesterday, letting counties know they have until November 13th to pass maps. So according to the Secretary, that's the deadline.
Well, given that, then I'll take a motion that this is a timely matter that we need to decide today. Is anybody going to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that it is.
Is there a
it is
second to
matter.
that motion?
Well, I'm sorry, what was the motion?
No, the motion is that it's timely based on that November 13th.
Is there a second to that motion? And this is a motion to determine whether or not to allow a member of the court to pull this matter for another meeting. Is there a second to the motion to hear this today?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor, signify by saying.
Discussion.
Sure.
You know, I'm just going to put on the record that like I say many times today, I'm very disappointed of the process. I'm very disappointed on council as well. But I cannot, vote, Commissioner, colleagues, on something that does not include more Latino representation, knowing that this, census shows the majority of the growth was in the Latino community. So I will be abstaining, Judge, and I hope that we can revisit this in 2 years to be sure that, the Latino community will get a fair map for representation.
Well, it pains me also to see that even with the great growth in Dallas County of the Latino population, that has been shown time and time again that the ability to actually draw a map is, if not impossible, very close to impossible. And that's where that's beholden to all of us in how we do business. What is the representation? Because isn't that bottom line what we're trying to do here?
So the motion before the court is a motion to rule this as time sensitive and hear it today, which would override a member of the court's desire to pull this for another time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, so then all those opposed?
No.
And you abstain?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So
So
that motion
map A.
carries 3 for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. That takes us back to map A. Are there any further comments on map A, or are we ready to vote?
Vote. Question.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Any opposed?
No.
And Dr. Garcia, do you abstain?
Correct.
All right, and that map, or that vote passes as well. That is 3 for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. We're going to do the JP maps next, but I want to instruct staff with all due haste to get this information into all the appropriate places so that this will be the map that is used for the next election. Next, we get to JP maps. As best I can tell, there was only
As a revised.
there's only one map
Right,
that
the
anybody can ask for.
revised
Map
map A, and Judge, revised.
I beg your pardon, we have speakers, I screwed that up. We had some speakers on these maps. I guess we should go back, before we get to JPs, let's hear from our
I think it's
speakers on
after
the
the
maps.
fact.
I'm very sorry. It's Della Hasso, Miss Della Hasso.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, Ms.
Gentlemen,
Hassan.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead and
She
speak.
has to be on mute.
Yeah, please unmute and speak.
Okay. Hello, Commissioners. First of all, thank you for your service. And it's Delia also, Judge Jenkins, Delia.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you again for your service. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for all your efforts. She is very well respected in her district by many, 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 many people. And the only thing I want to contribute here is I agree with Dr. Garcia. This process has been tainted. And every meeting that I'm in, I will express what has happened here today. I think that there is not enough weight given to what has happened to the voting population of Hispanics in the past 2 or 3 years. I personally have seen many Hispanic organizations, nonprofits, individuals in the past 2 to 3 years doing pop-ups, doing all sorts of voter registration, letting those young voters 18 and up know that they could elect a candidate of their choice. And that is very important. When you go out and register young voters, they have to know that they can vote and elect a candidate of their choice. And if there's not a reason to vote for a Hispanic, they will not come vote. That's the crux of it, is that you've got to respect all of these new young voters who we registered as Hispanics in the past 2 to 3 years. And I don't know where that information might be. You may not even have it yet, which means that you should leave the districts as they are, because you are not respecting the voter registration drives that have happened in the past 2 to 3 years. And that's all I have to say. I want to say thank you to Dr. Garcia. I agree with her wholeheartedly. The fact that Rolando Rios was not there is questionable. Did he not get the information? Did someone not follow up? So I really think that this has been a very, very tainted way of selecting maps for the next however many years you guys decide. So again, please respect the young voters that we registered, and we worked so hard to register the past 2 to 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Judge, Delia, good to see you. Let me just say, the Hispanic voting participation over the last 4 years has gone from 10 to 11%. And I will, just like when I displayed my CVAP, I will be able to demonstrate that population, that voter participation. And so I don't think that it is about the fact that no one has been given access and they're allowed to vote. They have moved from 10 to 11%.
Our next speaker on redistricting is Mr. Michael McPhail, who's in the courtroom with us.
Judge Jenkins, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to testify. I live in Irving, and I wish I'd had a chance to say this before you voted on it. I would like Commissioner Map B to be passed because, frankly, there's no reason to carve Irving up the way it's been carved up. There was a perfectly good map that would have kept the city in whole, and actually I raised the same objection 10 years ago. There is no reason to carve Valley Ranch and a big section of Las Colinas into a district based out of North Dallas. They really don't have anything in common, and it does affect representation of the city. And just to make sure I get the comment in this time, I'd like to make sure that Irving stays in one JP district if we stick with the traditional 5-seat model. That being said, returning to the 8-seat model I think does make a lot better sense. Those districts are just too big. Many people in JP4 in Irving complain bitterly that our JP office, our Constable office, and even our tax office were sent to Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie is not a member of DART. Getting that far south across the West Fork of the Trinity River is very difficult for people who don't have a car or have a one-car family and somebody's off at work during business hours. If we do, and I do hope you pick Map C for JP districts, go to that model, I would hope that we do return that courtroom to Irving, because even under that map, the overwhelming majority of the population in that map would be within the city of Irving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
See you.
And that concludes our speakers, but since it is an open hearing, let me call for speakers on the first set of maps, on the commissioner's maps. Are there any further speakers on the commissioner's court maps?
Yeah, my name is William Hopkins. I want to say Ms. Garcia don't have no help. Judge Jenkins, you went on the media and you was at a church for the Hispanics. You done a lot for the Hispanics, but now you voting with the white people against her. But I can remember you was all over the media and everywhere. Judge Jenkins, you went to a church. You was all for the Hispanics. And I would like to know why the judges for this voting is 3 white guys. Why is no Hispanic representing? Why Ms. Garcia just the only Hispanic, and she got to talk to 3 white men about Hispanics, and you double crossed her too, Judge Jenkins, because you was everywhere for the Hispanics. And this white man here was for the Hispanics. Now he done changed, and you done changed too, Judge Jenkins. On Ms. Garcia don't have no help down here, man. Especially John. That's pitiful, man. He pitiful. Thank you.
Are there any other public speakers? Are there any other public speakers on this issue of the maps for the commissioners? All right, we're now turning to the JPs.
Judge, revised, I'll yield. If you got something to say, revised map 8 is, I think, takes and places all of the JPs in incumbency. This was a map that cured the deviation. There was a 15% deviation. Revised map A, I think, cures that, and I would move revised map A.
Second.
Second on that, and let me call, before we vote on that, let me first call for public speakers, if there are any on the map, and then we'll hear any comments that the commissioners may have as well. Are there any public speakers on the JP map? Any? Go ahead.
Again, I want to say, Ms. Garcia said what's going on is pitiful. I don't know what she's voting on this, but I'm riding with Ms. Garcia. Whatever she think, I'm riding with her. Thank you.
Are there any other public speakers? Any other public speakers? Any other public speakers? All right, hearing no public speakers, are there any comments from the commissioners before we vote? Any comments? Hearing none, all those in...
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead. Did you have a comment?
No.
All those in favor of
revised
map A, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So that carries 4-1. That concludes, let me take a motion to close to the extent this...
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Lord.
I'd like to make a comment about process, because it's really important, I think, that the court be aware that on October 26th, Mr. Darrell Martin, who's the court administrator, sent an email to all counsel, including Mr. Rios, telling us that he believed it was the intention of the Commissioner's Court to adopt both the Commissioner District map and a JP Constable map on Tuesday, today. And Mr. Dunn, and Mr. Rios was copied on that email, as I said, Mr. Dunn responded to that because Mr. Martin had asked us for drafts of what the court order would look like for today. And And that was on October 29th, saying we are drafting it and are going to get it to you, and here is a draft. And Mr. Rios was copied on that as well. So, you know, it is true what Mr. Rios said, that we typically would get together beforehand and say what hotel we were in, but nobody has really said to me, from other than Mr. Martin, when the hearing was going to be held, and all counsel were copied on that. And the fact is, Mr. Dunn and I didn't stay at a hotel in Dallas last night, so there was no need to make arrangements with Mr. Rios about what hotel we were staying in, because we were not in Dallas, we were in Houston on another matter. So it isn't like he was disinvited or not included. He's legal counsel, full-fledged, just like me and just like Mr. Dunn. He had ample notice that we were going to be here today. For whatever reason, he's not here. That does not, to me, taint the process one bit. This process has been open and it's been transparent.
I would disagree, but.
I will too.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
There's been a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does that motion carry unanimously? Any against closing the public hearing? So that motion carries unanimously. We have a couple more speakers, and then we will go to closed session. Let me go through our speakers. Ms. Sabrina Brenham. Ms. Sabrina Brenham. Ms. Sabrina Brenham. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm here.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Sabrina Brenham. My address is 6621 LaGrange Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75241. No justice in the Fifth Court of Appeals of Dallas County. Why do the Fifth Court of Appeals allow cases with no trial errors, no affirmative defenses in the trial court to be accepted and become a part of an appeal docket? The case had no appealable qualifications. The trial case number is DC 1609551. The appeal case number is 051801377CV. Why did the Fifth Court of Appeals allow a disqualified visiting judge to preside over a case where she once was the attorney for the respondent? Familiar with both parties and had knowledge of all the particulars in the case contained. In this case, the judgment was reversed in favor of the respondent. Was this case tainted? I am expecting an immediate attention and action from this court with a response and resolution to this horrific problem we have in our Dallas County court system. My next action is to make this report to the Department of Justice for a full investigation of the Fifth Court of Appeals of Dallas County, Texas. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Reverend Orrin Stroud. Reverend Orrin Stroud, Reverend Orrin Stroud. Orrin Stroud here. Our next speaker is William Hopkins.
Yo, I wanna give out these papers. Can you give them to him? For Judge, let's got one for Judge Jenkins. Can you give that? Can you hand it to him?
Thank you.
Judge Jenkins, I'm here for Sand Branch first. With the pandemic, the COVID-19 the COVID-19 going on, the people in San Branch don't have no water. You got to wash your hands. Had the doctor down here today. Everybody talking about wash your hands. The people over there don't have no water. Judge John Wiley Price did a law enforcement survey where he said he went on his own by himself and did the survey. I'd like to see him go on his own by himself and get some water and a water meter over there in Sand Branch. If he can go on his own with a law enforcement survey and do a survey on the workers, and he gets, I don't know where he got the money or nothing, but if he can do that, and I'd like to see him go in Sand Branch and have him to, on his own, like he did with the law enforcement survey, on his own by himself, and have him put a water meter and some water in them houses over there in Sand Branch. People in West Dallas dying from the lead. And when they got John over in Sand Branch, people over there dying, don't have no water. He represent them. People in West Dallas dying from the lead. That's what I'm giving you now. Well, the city said they wasn't involved, Judge Jenkins. And the next page is what the city and the state of Texas sued the RSR lead plant. The first sheet they saying they wasn't involved. And if the county got people on the board at the Dallas Housing Authority. How don't the county know about this lawsuit and the people in the Housing Authority got the money, got paid from the lawsuit, Judge Jenkins? And you got John Wiley Price, got people on the Housing Authority board, and the people in West Dallas at the Housing Authority got paid for the lead and the court, and y'all don't know, Judge Jenkins? Judge Jenkins, you helping them cover up. Some kind of way you get money from Fred Byron, Russell Bud, or Dorothy Bud. Or you got some kind of interest in Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch helped them funnel the money. John Wiley Price and lawyers funnel the money. Judge Jenkins, you either got some money in Merrill Lynch. You, Laura Miller, Steve Willard was a state representative too. He worked for Fred Byron and Bud. John got paid from Fred Byron and Bud. Judge Jenkins, you is getting paid from Fred Byron and Russell Bud, Dorothy Bud, Alicia Blue, of the Fred Byron and Bud law firm, and you helping them cover up because the Dallas County got people on the board at the Dallas Housing Authority. Now, the Dallas County got people on the board at the Dallas Housing Authority, and you got to know, Judge Jenkins, in some kind of way they paying you because you keeping quiet just like John Wiley Price. And my time is up?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our next speaker is Mr. Michael Wigington. Mr. Michael Wigington, Mr. Michael Wigington.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, sir.
Right. During my last public comment, I mentioned I was filing a complaint with TCOL due to the Fire Marshal Office's failure to report some employees' separations properly. One employee, over 3 years ago, he retired, despite TCOL not being notified. TCOL has since substantiated the complaint and has required the fire marshal to submit notices so that separation dates could be corrected. Last I've heard, the complaint results had been sent to TCOL's executive director for making a decision on what sanctions would be appropriate. I wasn't able to get a response out of Commissioner Koch, so I've not yet learned who misrepresented the nature of the investigation to him or whether he simply chose to misrepresent it of his own accord. However, on October 22nd, the Texas AG ruled that some of the information Dallas County has sought to withhold from a prior Public Information Act request would have to be released to me. The information that must be released to me soon includes advice, opinions, drafts, and recommendations of Dallas County officials regarding, but not limited to, matters of responding to my sister's complaint. Unfortunately, ever since October 22nd, when that decision was sent, Dallas County's DA office has stopped responding to any of my public information requests. Since that time, I've had to file complaints with the AG's office over 14 separate Public Information Act requests, to which Dallas County either hasn't responded at all despite deadlines passing, responded late, charged me for non-responsive data, or otherwise violated the Texas Public Information Act. I would also like to mention Commissioner Koch accused my sister and I publicly on Facebook of being hostile and making threats. I have asked him to provide context for this statement, but he has so far refused. I would like to remind anyone who needs it on this court or in Dallas County that making public comments here to you and submitting complaints to government agencies is neither hostile behavior nor the making of threats. Blocking a person's driveway, then banging on their door while armed, demanding to see a type of permit that does not exist, asking to look around, then threatening to issue a stop work order, and pursuing a person onto their own private property after being told you are unwelcome, on the other hand, is both threatening and hostile. So I appear again before you asking for any help any of you is willing to provide in investigating these matters. I will be forwarding you a copy of the complaint I've sent to the AG's office. If any of you can get with the DA's office and help me, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. And this concludes our public speaker. We will now adjourn, or not adjourn, but we'll now move to our closed session as allowed by the Chapter 551 of the Government Code to consider matters that have been previously posted on our closed session agenda. Any action from that closed session will take place in a subsequent open session. We'll begin closed session momentarily. If you are not here for the closed session, I'd ask that you leave the courtroom at this time.
Who's coming back today?
Just JFK, just JFK Jr.
Really?
Oh, good, okay, both. Ready?
I've always wanted to meet him.
All right, no action necessary from the closed session, court stands adjourned.
Thank you.